Hi, welcome to Psychology as a subject, Chapter 1. The name of the chapter is called Variations in Psychological Attributes. Before we get into the chapter, some quick thoughts about psychology as a subject. You know, psychology is a very practical, here and now, and extremely exciting and interesting subject. Unfortunately, like just the title of this chapter says, variations in psychological attributes. It's a very funny title. And our textbooks, rather your textbooks, unfortunately, go a long way in making a great subject sound extremely uninteresting, boring, and pushes the student away. Just be aware of it. And my effort here is to make sure that it is extremely interesting, easy to learn, और इसका फायदा दोनों जगह पर होना चाहिए और होता है. एक easy to score subject है. You can get good marks, easy marks in the examination. Number 2 and more important, psychology as a subject is a real world subject. If you want to become a great doctor, scientist, manager, leader, parent, adult, the one who has good fundas of psychology, जो उसके बुनियादी चीज़ों को अच्छी तरह समझता है, he becomes a great, effective adult in the real world. Okay? You will get 4 to 6 questions just from the first 2 chapters. Okay? Pay attention to one important thing. The names, कौन सा theory किस psychologist ने किया, और definitions. Okay? If I say intelligence, intelligence का definition के 2-3 बड़े important words होते हैं, उनको दिमाग में बिठा लेना है to score marks. For example, capacity to learn new skills is aptitude. ये जोर से दिमाग में बिठा लेना है. Capacity to understand the world around me and solve problems using that is intelligence. ठीक है? So intelligence और aptitude में फर्क क्या है, वो एक बार बिठा लेने से जिंदगी भर काम आएगा. Shall we move forward? Come. The learning objectives of today's session, take a look at it. We will understand the basics of psychology, understand psychological attributes, understand what is intelligence, what are the theories of intelligence, and how is intelligence measured. Another fallacy about psychology is, लोग सोचते हैं कि इसमें मैथमेटिक्स नहीं है. मैथमेटिक्स इंटीग्रेशन डिफरेंशिएशन तो नहीं है, लेकिन नंबर्स बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, क्योंकि हाउ डू यू ट्रांसलेट अ वेरी एजोटेरिक, thin in the air subject called psychology and make it measurable? That we will learn in this chapter. Number 3, very important, आपने कई मर्तबा सुना होगा in real life, he is a high EQ person. What is his EQ? What is IQ? Intelligence quotient, emotional quotient, इनके बारे में भी हम जानेंगे. ठीक है? With those learning objectives, let's dive right into the session and do the first part of it, which is what are the domains or categories of psychological attributes. Sounds very, मालूम नहीं है क्या बोल रहा है ना, domains or categories of psychological attributes. Each word looks or sounds like Greek and Latin. बहुत सिंपल है. देखिए, हर इंसान के other than the physical body, there is a non-physical part. उस non-physical part को समझने के लिए मुझे क्या क्या dimensions देखने पड़ते हैं. That is what this part of the chapter is talking about. Let me help you explain or understand by explaining it in the following manner. Look at a box. If I tell you what is the capacity of a box, how will you tell me? Whether it will hold 10 liters of water or 100 liters of water? उसके लिए कुछ आपको ईजी करके बताना पड़ेगा, ऐसा तो नहीं बता सकते इतनी कैपेसिटी है हाथ करके या इतनी कैपेसिटी है। वो कैसे करते हो? You know how we do it in simple mathematics. We say the length of the box is L, the breadth of the box is B, the height of the box is H, 10 मीटर by 5 मीटर by 7 मीटर, L into B into H multiply कर दिया तो capacity of the box आ गया। So not only defining the box that it has 3 dimensions, but also measuring how much can it hold in terms of these dimensions has been made simple of a box. Now think of a conceptual box called a human being. उसके 5 dimensions होते हैं, बस इतना ही है इसके बारे में। What are the 5 dimensions? Take a look at it. First is interest. Interest means each human being has certain areas of interest. So let me first name the 5 and then we will go and talk about each one of them in a minute each. Interest, aptitude, personality, intelligence and values. These are the 5 domains or aspects or facets or dimensions, आप कोई भी नाम ले लीजिए, of the psychological attributes of a person. Again repeating, interest, aptitude, personality, intelligence and values. Let's take quickly each one of those, and if you get this, just this part solidly, you will be on a very strong foundation to understand every single chapter subsequently. Let me start first of all with intelligence. See, intelligence is defined as the capacity to understand the world around me, to comprehend a situation, and then to analyze it and then make choices by understanding what is the goal, what are the resources, और इन दोनों को मिलाते हुए कैसे मैं अपने ऑब्जेक्टिव की तरफ बढ़ सकता हूं, इस कैपेसिटी को इंटेलिजेंस कहते हैं। This chapter is a lot about intelligence, so I'll come back to it, but at the definition level, this is what you must know. Capacity to comprehend the world around me is intelligence. Okay, let's move forward and say, then what is aptitude? Aptitude is the capacity to learn new skills to execute a problem. आप में क्षमता है कि नहीं नई चीजें सीखने का जिससे आप कोई काम कर सकते हैं। जैसे if you have high aptitude for mathematics, then if I am a teacher, I find that it is easy for me to teach you mathematics compared to another student who might have a high aptitude in verbal ability. वो English, हिंदी, languages, communication शायद वो जल्दी सीख लेंगी, लेकिन आप शायद mathematical को जल्दी सीख लेंगे. So every single job needs certain kind of skills. That capacity is called aptitude. Number 3 is interest. Interest is your propensity or your keenness to be involved in a certain kind of activity. As you know, some of you might be very interested in anything which is outdoor. और आपको मैं कंप्यूटर के सामने बिठा दूं तो आप पगला जाओगे. You say I want to become a... So careers also have a linkages to these psychological attributes. We'll come to it a little later. Whereas, think of somebody who's extremely interested in computer games or programming or painting or anything like that. That person will engage a lot more time in doing this, and if you force a person to go out and play soccer, he will not be in his comfort zone. That is the third dimension of interest. Fourth is personality. What is personality? Personality is what I see a person behaving consistently over a period of time in a given situation. Okay? So personality is an external or outward manifestation seen in behavior. For example, you say that that person has a very cheerful personality. that person is very social in his personality, which means the disposition is very cheerful, or he feels comfortable or she feels comfortable going and interacting with people rather than sitting alone and doing an intrapersonal work. I'll come to that later. Personality के भी अलग अलग parts हैं, but this is something that you must understand. The enduring characteristic of a person which is evidenced in behavior is personality. Lastly, values. Values are beliefs seen in action. For example, Gandhiji, he would go to jail, he would allow the Britishers to punish him, he will do anything, but he will not lift his hand and beat the adversary or even the enemy. What is the value that he personifies? It is ahimsa or non-violence. Take another example. We've heard of story from our ancient Hindu literature, scriptures. Raja Harishchandra never told a lie, so his value was of speaking the truth. But जरूरी नहीं है कि values को आप morals के साथ confuse करें, नहीं. For example, A.R. Rahman is almost like music personified. Even if you were to give him $100 million and say तुम cricketer बन जाओ, शायद वो नहीं बनता. या सचिन को विराट को कहो आप मैनेजर बन जाओ, वो नहीं बनते. Which means values के भी 2-3 levels हैं, we will cover that. Something which is so deeply embedded in you is called a cardinal value. उसको बंदा violate ही नहीं करता है. लेकिन कुछ values ऐसे हो सकते हैं which are central, very important, but if you put a knife to my throat, I will compromise on it. And some values are associated values. No, I don't like to be violent, but if I get into a metro and somebody is going to come and rob me, then I'm going to use whatever it is to save myself. Which means I'm associated with that value, but it is not central, it is not cardinal. Make sense? Pause here. After we finish this video, you must go back and study it. And I always assume that you will read the chapter, come here, watch the video, go back and read the chapter again. So, to wrap this up again, as a summary, personality, aptitude, intelligence, interest and values are the 5 dimensions of psychological attributes. Hope this is clear. इन पांचों का अच्छी तरह से fundamentally समझकर examples के साथ आगे बढ़ने से it will be great. There are multiple theories that have come about intelligences. Now we are going to take the most important theory that has come up in the last 50 years. It's developed by an American psychologist called Howard Gardner. He's even now associated with Harvard University in the Graduate School of Education. He's an 82-83-year-old gentleman. His theory is called Theory of Multiple Intelligences. तो गार्डनर ने क्या बोला था कि इंटेलिजेंस के भी 8 different dimensions हैं. And look at the chart. There is something called as linguistic intelligence, numerical intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, naturalist intelligence, kinesthetic aspect, spatial intelligence and musical intelligence. These are the 8 dimensions. Each one, actually, you and I intuitively already know what it is. But Howard Gardner put it out into a beautiful model and said that there are 8 types of intelligences. और आप देखोगे linguistic intelligence कौन है? Who's word smart? A poet, a script writer comes who's got a linguistic intelligence. Mathematical intelligence, one who's good in mathematics, numbers. You know some people in our family, very good in numbers. कौन बनते हैं वो लोग? इंजीनियर्स, साइंटिस्ट, मैथमेटिशियंस, दैट्स नंबर इंटेलिजेंस. Similarly, each one, I'm not going to take time explaining all of them. And each one of us has a mix of these in ourselves. It is not only numerical and nothing else. No, it's a mix of numerical and spatial and verbal. For somebody else, it could be musical, auditory, verbal, etc. The dominant intelligences ends up guiding the person in that direction, right? So if you find a great singer, you know what intelligence would be prominent. And there are some people who have multiple intelligences. Some of us, we have just a couple of them very dominant. So pay attention to this, look at it very, very closely. It's a very important theory. In trying to be brief and just give you the concept, I'm leaving it at this. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, with all the examples that you can see. Go back and read into the book. You will find it at least one question coming from this in every exam. Let me now go to another theory. The theory is called the Triarchic theory of intelligence. While Howard Gardner said that there are 8 types of intelligences, look at now the theory by Robert Sternberg, given in 1985. It has got 3 dimensions. One is the cognitive, which also is called the analytical or componential intelligence. He said that intelligence के 3 parts हैं. पहला है analytical intelligence. What does it do? It comprehends what is happening around me. It helps me processize this information, and it helps me make choices on what kind of action that I need to take. इसको उन्होंने analytical intelligence कहा था. On the other side, he called what is called as a contextual intelligence, which means he said that हर बंदे में, every person has got a certain amount of intelligence to gauge the situation around him. Context. Is my father angry at this point in time? Should I go and ask for a permission to go to a movie? No. If the contextual intelligence is high, you will not do that. You will wait for tomorrow morning when he is in a good mood, and then you will go and do it. That's contextual intelligence. So there is an analytical intelligence, there is a contextual intelligence. The third he called as experiential intelligence. Easy to understand. If you have an experience of cracking exams in the past 2, 3, 4 years and you made some mistakes, you learned something from it. You did something very well, you got high marks from it. And you take that experiential intelligence and apply it when you're preparing for CUET or any other future event. That's called experiential intelligence. So, componential, experiential, contextual. So, Sternberg said that these are the 3 ways in which intelligence can be broken down, and a mix of these goes on to show how intelligent any person is in his life, and there were ways in which measurement of intelligence was done. We'll come to it later. If it's clear, pause, take these questions, and then we are moving ahead. A very quick covering of the next component called nature versus nurture as far as intelligence is concerned. What do you think? Where does intelligence come from? Is it only at birth because of your genes and the genetic makeup that you have? Or it also has something to do with the family, the environment, the exposure that you get? You know the answer intuitively, but there are scientists who have worked on it, and they called it as nature versus nurture. And I'm going to point out only one specific thing to you, and if you look at the table, you will see. The way this was done is by studying identical twins or even the non-identical fraternal twins growing up. अगर दोनों बच्चे और आइडेंटिकल हैं, एक ही माँ बाप से हैं और एक ही घर में दोनों की परवरिश हुई है, तो क्या दोनों का इंटेलिजेंस एकदम सेम रहता है या अलग रहता है? Interesting topic, na? This study was done over a long period of time. And what they found was that the correlation was 0.9. If two identical twins are in the same house, born to the same biological parents, and they grew up, it was not 100%, but it was 0.9%. Look at the table. If the same twins, identical, at birth if they were separated, and let's say a Chachaji took him away, and then that child grew up in another city, another country, another home, another context, then the matching was 0.72. Then non-identical twins, look at the number. Then just the siblings in the same family, siblings who grew apart, look at the numbers. Very interesting. What it goes on to say is that both nature and nurture have a very important bearing in the psychological attributes that we see when a newborn grows into an adult. It is not just nature or not just nurture. Both are important. There is an interplay that happens between the two. Keep a good eye on these numbers. Question could be asked. Identical twins grown apart, what was the correlation that was found? You have to say 0.72. Okay? Let's move to something very interesting. Very interesting. We use it every day. It is used as a strong measure of recruitments and rating of people and so on all over the world. This is a place where you can get a good understanding of it. You know, in 1905, two behavioral scientists or psychologists by name Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon, they came up with a concept called mental age and chronological age. Chronological age, if you're born in 2000, in 2021 or 22, you are a 22-year-old. That is a chronological age. However, if I give you a test which is built for a 22-year-old, normally it is done in the formative ages. So let's take an example of a 15-year-old student. So his chronological age or a CA is 15. And I give him a paper, a question paper, which is testing all the intelligences, which is statistically and robustness of the test is proven. वो मैंने आपको दिया और आपने लिया. And if your score is better than a 15-year-old, let's say your score is equal to what a 17-year-old would score, then your chronological age is 15, but your intelligence is that of a 17-year-old. इस रेशियो को इंटेलिजेंस क्वोशेंट कहते हैं. बस इतना ही बात है. IQ आपने बहुत मर्तबा सुना होगा. So 17 divided by 15, 110, 112, 115 आता है, into 100 is IQ. Look at it, make a note of it. That's it. It's as simple as that. Let's take a reverse example. If I give a paper to a 15-year-old and he's able to solve the paper of only of a 13-year-old's paper, then the mental age is 13, chronological age is 15, so the IQ is less than 100, right? 13 divided by 15 into 100. So this is IQ. And आपने कई मर्तबा सुना होगा, oh, such and such persons, Elon Musk's IQ is 160. What does it mean? When he was a 13-year-old, he was solving problems of a 17, 18-year-old. That's why he is a high IQ person. And as he went down his life, a lot of things that he did, he's of that kind. Remember, IQ, simple, mental age divided by chronological age into 100. That's it. कोई complication नहीं है. Questions इसमें से ज़रूर आते हैं. Now let's move to a very important part. What is the definition and concept of intelligence in the Indian tradition? Lot of things in India, what is known to us because of ancient scriptures, society, knowledge, wisdom, we kind of undervalue them because the Western concepts which have grown in the last 100, 150, 200 years, they have kind of हमारे ऊपर हावी रहे हैं. But Let's quickly cover the Indian concept of intelligence. What is the word that comes to your mind? Intelligence. क्या use करते हैं हम हिंदी में या संस्कृत में और variety of Indian languages. It is the same word that we use called बुद्धि. कहते हैं ना वो बड़ा बुद्धिवान है या वो बड़ा बुद्धिहीन है. Is very intelligent or is not so intelligent. The Western concepts, they said, they linked most of the intelligence only to the cognitive part. सिर्फ दिमाग से किया. लेकिन बुद्धि is not just दिमाग. बुद्धि में 4 dimensions है. Again, take a look at the picture. Of course, one is cognitive, which is understanding the context, understanding the situation, processing it in your head, and taking a decision. That is there. But the Indian understanding of intelligence or buddhi said there are 3 more very important things. The second one they said was the social intelligence. कहते हैं ना कि बड़ों के सामने पैर के ऊपर पैर लेकर बैठने से क्या बोलते हैं मम्मी या पापा? यार पैर नीचे रखो. करते हैं कि नहीं करते हैं? किसी के घर में जाते हैं तो कई घरों पर या मंदिर में चप्पल बाहर छोड़ के जाते हैं. इसको कौन सा इंटेलिजेंस है? दिस इज कॉल्ड सोशल इंटेलिजेंस, विच मीन्स यू मस्ट नो that this is the behavior that has to be done with elders. This is the behavior that has to be done with women. This is the behavior that has to be done in the morning. This is what you must do in the night. This is very important part, which is called as social intelligence. 3, emotional intelligence. Okay, Western school of intelligences have just very recently began to talk about EQ. IQ के साथ उन्होंने EQ को अभी करना शुरू किया, but the Indian part has been there for thousands of years. What is an emotional intelligence? Do I understand the emotional location of myself when I take a decision? So, should I take a very important decision when I am emotionally disturbed? Or, if I have to tell something to someone, do I know how he will take it? How should I communicate so that he takes it well? This is an important part of emotional intelligence. Also, is there a self-regulation in it for me? I feel like grabbing a bottle of water and drinking it. I see a shop. Would I go and grab it and drink? No. There is a self-regulation that is there, which is emotional संयम है. मुझे उसकी परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी, उनको पैसे देने पड़ेंगे, खरीदना पड़ेगा, तभी पीऊंगा. Or many such examples that you can think of. All of these are part of emotional intelligence. Lastly, which no theory ever has talked about, but Indian system talks about it, is called entrepreneurial intelligence. Which means कर्म की बात जो होती है ना, वो है. Is the person goal directed? Does he know his duty? Dharma is duty. Is he motivated enough to work towards it? So perseverance is part of entrepreneurial intelligence. Hard work is a part of entrepreneurial intelligence. Goal clarity is a part of entrepreneurial intelligence. These 4, cognitive, social, emotional and entrepreneurial. Very important part. Questions आ सकते हैं. ध्यान से पढ़ना और जहन में भी उतारना. It is very important for your own personal growth. Last, again going back to the Western part, emotional intelligence का concept recently उन्होंने introduce किया है. Now if you go to many companies, when they are recruiting you into a college or a university or many places, they use these. So when they make you go through a group discussion, they are not only looking at your intellectual quotient, they are also looking at your emotional quotient. How is the person talking to other person? How is he? How much assertive he is? How much accommodative he is? All of these form a part of intelligence, which is the feeling side of intelligence, not the thinking side. Feeling side of intelligence is called emotional intelligence, and emotional quotient comes from there. Same thing. What is the mental age? What is the chronological age? Similarly, what is the emotional age and what is the chronological emotional age? That gives you the EQ of a person. Okay? That brings us to the end of this chapter. Very short, very powerful, very valuable from an exam point of view. Go back and read the chapter, take these questions that appear to you right now, and make sure that you, after you revise the chapter, do you go and take the entire chapter test, and then you should be good enough. Remember, 2 to 5 marks will come from this chapter alone. I'll see you soon in the next chapter, which is also very important. Thank you very much. Take care. Hope you enjoyed the session as much as I enjoyed making this for you. Bye.